Hi, I'm David Domke. I'm chair of the Department of Communication at the University of Washington. Every once in a while I get a chance to sit down and have a conversation with an alumni, a faculty member, a staff, a student, somebody who's doing something really interesting or has made a significant impact in the world. I have the privilege today to sit down with a person who's going to be joining our Alumni Hall of Fame for the Department of Communication, Tinamarie Feil, and just have a chance to talk with her for 10 or 15 minutes about how communication informed the work that she does and the kind of work that she's expanded into over the last many years. So thanks for joining me, Tinamarie.
Nice to be here. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, absolutely. So you're usually in New York, but you're here for this, so thanks for coming.
Yes, it's a pleasure. In fact, I'm thrilled because I get to stay a week. It's the first time I've been back to the campus in, at least a decade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, terrific, terrific. So you graduated in communication, and I was wondering what led you to have that as an interest for a major?
Well, I'm not exactly sure I had an interest. It's sort of one of those things that happened. A friend of mine took a speech communication class, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And this is sort of a bawdy story, but there was a professor who told us, or asked one day, what is a 12-letter word for incestuous son? Now, I won't say it here, but it's a pretty good swear word.
Wow.
And so from there, we thought, wow, language, communication, it's pretty good. Let's declare our major. And so a good friend of mine and I decided to major in communication.
Okay, I haven't heard that entry to the department before. Wow.
Well, when you're a freshman, you don't really know what you want to do. You don't know what you want to do for life or where you want to go. Mostly it's parties, campus parties.
Sure.
First time you've been out on your own, sort of, even though it's not really on your own.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to be a freshman and try to decide what to do in the way of a course of study.
When you were going through your undergraduate degree, did you have a certain kind of career you envisioned that you might do, or was it just kind of like, I'll just see where it goes?
I did have an interest in law enforcement. I kind of thought that I would go that direction. There was a communications class where I think it was the professor, it may have been just a speaker, who was involved in hostage negotiations. And so I really thought that would be pretty cool. But, life goes on and you evolve just based on different kinds of experiences. And I'm not exactly sure what took me down the path that I went, but here I am.
One of the things in our department is a lot of students do internships. Okay, it's a way of testing out ideas, possible jobs, and sometimes they find out they love them, and other times very different, right? So I believe that you did an internship when you were, at least one, when you were an undergraduate, right? And what was the value of that, and where was it?
Oh, actually, I didn't do an internship.
Okay.
I worked through college.
Oh, I see.
I paid my way through, and the job was at a local law firm. It happened to specialize in bankruptcy. So it was called the Debt Relief Clinic. And I got the job by finding an ad in the UW Daily. So it wasn't an internship, it was just full-on working and sort of learning about how to communicate with people. The Debt Relief Clinic, it's now Rogovy and Rogovy. They had a Chapter 13 practice, which is individuals who are having trouble with their debts.
Okay.
And one of the things I did there was interview people for their schedule of assets and liabilities that you submit to the court. So I got some hands-on experience there, learning how to interview people, but of course it was scripted, specific questions, but a lot of times it was making the people feel comfortable about the fact that they were having trouble with their debts, and informing them about how it would help them get through and eventually be back on their feet.
Was there a certain dimension to that experience, that body of work there, that seem to capture kind of, yeah, I think that there's some real value and deeper meaning to this, that because you've gone on since then to do a great deal of work, first in the bankruptcy arena and now more broadly around kind of global management of finances and trades and securities. I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah, I don't really know how it evolved. It just sort of is natural in terms of seeing how people or even companies now, because my company is focused on business to business technology and communication rather than dealing with people individually. But I like to work hard. I see opportunities. I'm also a capitalist, and I didn't think that I was going to get rich working on people's Chapter 13 individual debt schedules. So
I'd love to ask you about the starting of your company. So BMC Group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of young people say, wow, I'd love to start a company, but they have no idea what that would mean or what that looks like, or I know you work endless hours to make this happen. So could you just talk a little bit about the decision to start it, and then, what are one or two takeaways over the years that you kind of think are really come with this terrain?
Sure. Well, first of all, my dad was an entrepreneur, and I sort of just grew up knowing that I would probably work for myself somewhere, somehow. And BMC Group came about when I was doing this work with the law firm and the bankruptcy courts, and realizing that I would work harder. I would work hard for anybody, but my now partner said, why do you want to work that hard for somebody else? Why not work hard for ourselves? And so that's sort of how the company started. The BMC Group, it was originally Bankruptcy Management Corporation. And as we tried to decide what our names should be, my partner was involved in vintage car racing. And I wanted to travel extensively if I could. So we were talking and said, well, what should we name the company? And I said, well, Bankruptcy Management Consultants Corporation. And he said, BMC, yes, because he was racing vintage automobiles, and you had to have period graphics on your car. And that way we could use it as advertisement for BMC Group. Meanwhile, I wanted to travel, and so I got involved in a lot of international bankruptcy and restructuring conferences and whatnot. So we both sort of got what we wanted out of starting a company of our own.
Yeah. What's the best thing about having your own company, and what's the hardest?
Well, the best thing is not answering to anybody else. And the worst thing is not answering to anybody else. Truly, actually, the worst thing, I think, is being responsible for other people's lives, just in terms of, if we're having trouble financially or we don't know where the market is going. I worry the most about employees who have families to feed. That's the worst. Yeah,
sure, yeah. I want to ask you about the career exploration experience that we offer in the Department of Communication. We take students to Los Angeles and to New York City for a couple days, and we would not have one in New York City if it was not for you.
Yeah.
And what happened was I remember coming out to visit with you with Victoria Sprang, our alumni relations manager at the time, and you were just so gracious and hospitable, and you just said, hey, I could connect these students with some people. And so we thought about locating an experience with you as the centerpiece of this. So can you talk a little bit about why this kind of interactions with students and connecting them to alumni, why you were interested in that, and how this is kind of, what this has meant for you?
Sure. I was very excited when I heard from you guys because I remember being a college student, not really knowing where I wanted to take my life, where I could go, actually. And I didn't have sort of mentors, right? I didn't know where to go to get help in deciding sort of what to do next. And having a company in New York, offices in New York, it seemed just wonderful to me to have an opportunity to give University of Washington students an opportunity to see some of industry in New York, and it was just a no-brainer and a lot of fun because, as you know, we've had a couple of trips, and
Yeah.
the kids enjoy it, and I think it's a great exposure to facilitate their decision-making, and it's fun. I love it, and looking forward to the next trip, which is, I guess, going to be in the spring.
Yeah, exactly. We always start with, we've had, often you're the first person that our students meet there in New York City as they come in to talk with you and get a sense of kind of what the life is like there. And we have a couple students who've moved there now to New York City. I think there's something about, we go to Los Angeles and I think they can imagine that. But going to New York City, I think the career exploration trip itself really is what helps them to imagine that. Have you, was there a moment in your own kind of professional development when you had a mentor or a person who helped you to imagine something that before you didn't really think that was something that could be possible?
Well, I do attribute that really to my business partner and my best friend, Sean Allen. He just has this major vision. And we laugh sometimes and call him unencumbered by facts. It's like he doesn't care if there's any obstacles in the way. He just positively visualizes it. And he can manage to get everybody wound up and believing, drinking the Kool-Aid, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I think that's where it comes from, just in terms of how far I've expanded in terms of the charitable work that I do, the business that we do, the expansion to worldwide offices. It's all a lot of fun.
It's great to have someone like that, and I'm guessing you provide the bounding, the encumbered by facts person, right?
Why do people always know that? It's true.
Do
Sometimes I'm called buzzkill.
Oh, well, you need both for the partnership, right?
Yeah.
As we kind of maybe begin to wrap it up here, I was thinking to ask you about how it is that what you think about communication as an area of major and as a professional space today. Like, what are your what's a thought or two that you might want to leave a current student with as they think about their future?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's easy to say that communication is the basis of everything. And so I think that education and a specialty in communication allows you to be prepared for any walk of life. It's a necessity. And I apologize because there was a second part to your question, not only like why would you recommend communications, but what was the other part?
Just thinking about maybe the future, about what would be some things that they should think about now in terms of as they go forward. So, yeah.
Well, I think just honestly to continue to bang on the fact that it gives you this basis of being anywhere, doing anything. There's an application of communication in any kind of job you do. So even if it doesn't end up being, communication, obvious communication based, like, a newscast or information management or whatever, the basis that's provided there is going to be valuable forever.
Yeah. What's the most fulfilling kind of part of your job, the work you do right now? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is it that you say, yeah, I'm really glad I do this work because?
Well, I really like doing this work because we affect so many people. We have the ability to provide transparency and information and support major transactions. It's just all really interesting to work with multiple kinds of companies, learning about different industry, and it's all because we're simply crafting messages on their behalf. And in order to do that, I have to learn about what they are, who they are, and then turn around and communicate it.
Yeah. So you're always kind of learning, right? A lifelong learner.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I'm David Domke. I'm chair of the Department of Communication. I have the privilege to held this position at the University of Washington. Been joined here by a person who's joining our alumni, Department of Communication Alumni Hall of Fame here in 2016, Tinamarie Feil. So thank you for joining us.